This is a message for filmmakers. Around half of the revenue in some of the top Oscar-winning films comes from dub, subtitled, and audio-described versions. The international audience thoughts on the script, the cast performance, and the film in general are directly influenced by the dubbing script and the subtitles. Still, audiovisual translation and accessibility do not usually get any attention from filmmakers and their creative teams. Don't you think that something that has such a huge impact in your film's reception deserves some attention from you? Do you know all you need to know about audiovisual translation so you can get the most out of it? My name is Lucía Doval. I'm an audiovisual translator and a media accessibility expert, and my purpose here is to share some information that may help improving the quality of translated and accessible content so that we all win. And by we, I mean makers, experts, and users. I'm sure you as a filmmaker want to reach as many people as possible. That is why you would include translation and accessibility in your film, right? So you can reach people who speak different languages, people with different abilities, or people who may watch your film in different situations. That is the why. Now, once you know you want it, what do? You hire a professional translator or a media accessibility expert or an agency after your film is finished in post-production, and you forget about it. You have no direct contact with those professionals and you just trust the process. But you know, although the current audiovisual translation industry is efficient and counts on really talented professionals, there are some issues that might be compromising its artistic potential. The issue number one is deadlines. We translators may not know that we are working on your film until it is almost ready to be distributed. Sometimes we don't even have time to perform a full watch-through of the film before we start working on it. You may have dedicated weeks, months, or even years to develop your script until every word serves your message. And then you only give a few days for a person to watch it, analyze it, digest it, get every detail, every hidden message, every nuance on the characters' personalities and the film's identity, and then transfer all of that into a whole different language so that it is received by a whole different culture. How can this be improved? Easy. By contacting audiovisual translators and media accessibility experts way sooner. Ideally from pre-production if you wish. Let us get immersed in the process, in the story. Give us the time to take care of your script like you did. The issue number two is materials. Audiovisual translators and media accessibility experts work with two main materials: the video and the script. When we are lucky, we get a good script that comes with all the dialogues and maybe even some extra annotations. When we are not lucky, we may have to open our ears and pray for the cast to articulate every word. But you know what would be awesome? To have access to all possible materials and information. For example, if your film is based on real events and you performed an exhaustive research on that, we would love to have access to that research. If you have some pre-production materials where you've written all the details of your fiction world, even if you finally didn't use all of that in the film, we would love to have access to it. If I'm audio describing your film and you have a document where you wrote what is happening in the image on every frame and why, I would love to have access to that. We all have to accept that there will always be something lost in translation, but the more you make sure we know about your film, the less will be lost in translation. Issue number three, remuneration. I started this video saying around half of the revenue in some of the top films comes from translated and accessible versions. Do you know how much of the budget is devoted to those areas? 0.1%. 0.1%. I'll leave you all the sources in the description. I know when it comes to investment, you have to set priorities, but isn't the quality of the product that half your audience will receive a priority? The issue number four is isolation. Well, this sounds quite sad, but the issue is having zero contact with the creative team. In most cases, audiovisual translators and media accessibility experts never talk to anybody from the creative team. The conversation happens with third parties. Do you know how useful it would be for a translator to have access to the script writer, or for a subtitler to have access to the director of photography or the editor, or for an audio describer to have access to, well, everyone? crazy useful. Audiovisual translation is a creative task, and audiovisual translators need to make creative decisions that may affect the way other areas are perceived. For example, what if the director of photography looked for a dark atmosphere and then I use a painfully bright color when subtitling? Or what if there are several languages or accents present in your film? How should I treat them? Well, this leads me to issue number 5, which is guidelines. Decision making is often covered by guidelines, but guidelines are good, but film is art, right? And I believe art is about knowing the guidelines and then breaking them. So when I find myself in the need of making a creative decision, the ideal scenario would be to go and talk to the creative team with the guidelines in my hand and get your opinion so that every decision is adapted to your specific film and not to some standard guidelines. Issue number 6. This is a quite new one. Machine translation post-editing. I don't know if you've heard about this, but post-editing has been a controversial topic these days here in Spain because the Spanish subtitles of Squid Game, the famous Netflix series, were translated by a machine and then just edited by a human. And there's a rule in post-editing which is called the 2-second rule that states that when you read a subtitle, you should spend no more than 2 seconds to decide if you keep it because it is understandable enough or if you change it because it's basically a mess. Can you imagine? Do you want your script to be understandable enough or do you want your script to be freaking unforgettable? What I mean by all of this is I'm sure you want to have all possible artistic decisions in your film under control. So if you're not getting involved in decision making regarding audiovisual translation and media access, are you aware of everything that is escaping your control?